We bought a freaking plane. It doesn't look like a plane, but this whole thing right here is the rear end of a Vans RV10 in a bunch of pieces.
Yep.
And we're gonna go over a little bit of the game plan today. She is going to interview me, and then this will be super choppy because we're kind of just gonna go with the flow and have a good time.
Yeah, so pretty much I'm going to ask the questions that our friends and family ask when we mention that we are starting this journey of building a plane. There's a lot of people who have some uncertainty about it, so I'm just going to go through with Austin and share with you all a little bit about what we talk about behind the scenes. So, got a sticky note with notes? So, we're going to start with who, what, when, where, why, safety. So
we're keeping things very, very complex.
Yeah, we like to do that.
Yeah.
All right, so who?
Who? We. And by we, you'll notice over and over again in the first videos of setting up the garage and the hangar and whatnot, I keep saying we. So the more times I say we and implant that in her head, the more likely she'll be out here bopping rivets with me. No, so we, so us, me and Amanda,
Yep.
and then whoever else wants to come and assist along the way. But primarily us, probably.
Yep, it'll be the two of us in between everything else, but yeah, it'll be exciting. Okay, so what are we doing?
We're building an airplane. So we are building a 4-seater, first of all, building. So question off of that one that everyone asks is building, huh? So summed up, in aviation, there's 2 ways to get into owning a plane. Actually, I guess 3 ways. 3 ways into flying, pretty much. So you can either rent a plane, like just straight up hourly rentals, or join a flying club and have access to a fleet, but then you're kind of at the mercy of plane availability and paying for something that isn't actually ending up being yours. The other option is straight up buying, which I don't know how much money you have hiding from me, but we can't afford that. So I'd say the most popular one would be buying an airplane, but it's super expensive to get into, to buy a plane. You can drop a lot of money into a plane, and odds are, even if you can find a good deal, they're usually like 1960s, 1950s, like really old planes, old technology, that are still super expensive. So our way in is going to be through the experimental category of kit builds, which is where the manufacturer basically does all the designing of the actual major components of the plane, and they ship it to you in a crate like this. So hundreds and hundreds of little stamped aluminum parts with a full instruction manual, which is probably hidden somewhere in here, and you literally build it from the ground up, starting with one part and going forward. So the reason you do this versus buying the plane, long story short, is to get your foot in the door for a whole lot less money, since you're the one actually sinking every one of those rivets and building the plane from the ground up.
So a follow-up question to that everyone asks, the term experimental throws people off sometimes. Does that mean that it's never been tried before, or that you're just gonna, put it together and then fly with no one watching you? What is experimental exactly distilled down into?
Yeah, so if you remember in like high school chemistry, junior high school chemistry, when you have an experiment that blows up, similar to this. But no, so experimental means
Kidding.
experimental is just that category where you build your plane. So the way it's seen is, your plane hasn't itself flown. When you build your plane, you do have to either yourself be the test pilot, or I think there's other ways to have someone else be the test pilot for you. But the model itself, the RV10 itself, has been, I don't even know when the first one started getting built, but it is a tried and true. It's a pretty established plane. They have a very, very solid track record. So the plane itself, built to the builder's or to the manufacturer's specification, has been out there already. But the plane itself, it will technically be experimental because the plane itself hasn't flown until we fly it.
Right, but correct me if I'm wrong, before it can even go up, it has to be reviewed. Your work has to be reviewed, is that correct?
Correct, yes.
Okay.
So I'll probably explore these other avenues, but summed up, there's Experimental Aircraft Association, EAA. They're super big. I think we have a couple of different groups in the Phoenix area here. But you can join with them. There's mentorship opportunities there where they can review your work and kind of give you pointers there. So you have really seasoned people who can help you out and you can lean on. But at the end of the day, in order to fly, you have to get a certificate of airworthiness from the FAA. So they come out and actually inspect the airplane and make sure that it's not going to fully fall apart. So they'll do inspect it. That is so. Fun fact: we have a motion sensor, and it has cut off on me so many times where I'll be mid-building. The worst
We're
one
gonna
was
fix that.
I was installing the lights here, and it cut off on me, and I had a drill in one hand. I was holding. Anyways.
They're on.
They're on now. Motion sensor lights. Don't ever do it. It sounds great because you can walk out with a handful of groceries, but it cuts off. Continue.
So, next, why are you building an airplane?
Why not?
Great question. That's the big question.
No, I'd say the whys. So, I've always been interested in aviation. My little brief family background. My grandpa was a test pilot and was very well known in the aviation industry. Did a lot of stuff with lifting bodies and a huge resume. So anyways, super involved. So we have a pretty big, heavily aerospace background in the family. Sisters, cousins, aunts, uncles, a lot of aerospace engineers, a lot of aviation in the family. No one who currently flies right now, but Papa used to build his plane. So he was probably a little bit more qualified to build and fly experimental aircraft. But back in the day, he did build them. I know he has one still on display at a museum currently, a Pit Special that he built in the garage or in his backyard. So that's part of the reason is just I really want to help kind of keep that tradition going if I can. I don't know if I will or not. But inspired by Papa. And then also just the ability to fly. I think for us, a lot of our family's still in California, and it's a pretty long drive to get there.
It is.
It's 6.5 hours of driving to get from Phoenix to the Antelope Valley area. And the flying wise, there's really no major airport near them.
Yeah, LAX is the closest, and it's just kind of a headache.
But Fox Field is like 10 minutes away from them, so small local general aviation airport, small field there. So goal would be to be able to do quick trips back to California, quick trips anywhere. We can fly from Phoenix to Sedona in 20, 30 minutes. I mean, we can fly to the Grand Canyon for we can go anywhere.
And on our own terms, that's kind of a nice piece of it. I know right now travel is a little bit, uncertain in terms of getting flights and what you can do and all sorts of things. So it's kind of it's a convenience factor, that's for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, where are you going to be building this plane? You're
Welcome to
looking
my
at
hangar.
it. You're looking at it.
So when we moved here, one of our requirements when we bought this house was to have at least a 2-car garage and have it solely be for the purpose of building a plane. So this may come off, you probably have a sticky for this. I'm going to get into the timing for it. So we've been keeping this super on the down low for a long time now, just because it's you don't meet new people who are building a plane, it's just so foreign. So we kept super quiet, but summed up for a long time, we've been putting away money, similar to tithing. We literally had X amount of money going to Jesus, X amount of money going to the RV10 for a very long time. And finally got to the point where we got this house this last summer, and then I've slowly turned it into a good working garage. So the sole goal is to, every once in a while we can park with one car in here. The sole goal is just to take up this whole thing and just have it be our hangar.
Yeah, eventually will it get too big?
Yes. So eventually we may either need to get a 3-car garage, get a little more room, or actually eventually move it out to a hangar. So a lot of the build you can do, I think there's a guy online, another resource, there's a bunch of forums for this stuff, but there's one super good resource where there's a gentleman who built a majority of his in a 1-car garage. So it's definitely doable. You basically build, so like this kit, for instance, you can build the back, the empennage, and fit it in here, and you can either move it over there, move it inside, move it wherever, and kind of just move things around as needed. You build a wing at a time, you can lift the wing, have the wings kind of sucked up.
I'm sorry, we're going to have a plane in the kitchen. Okay, I'm learning stuff too,
One step at a time. No, so you can put it in quite a few areas, and eventually maybe move it in the kitchen.
Yeah, so, yeah, okay.
And then eventually, you do have to build it. So eventually, a few years down the line, we'll actually have a hangar either at Deer Valley Airport or Scottsdale, somewhere. and assemble it in an actual hangar because you can't really assemble it here in a garage or in a neighborhood. They frown upon taking off in a neighborhood, something about the runway length and something.
As a side note, because I've had this question asked to is every single part of the plane built by you? So for example, like the engine, does it come in a bunch of pieces, or are there certain parts of the plane pre-built?
Great question. No. So the only thing that I'm going to be building would be the actual structure, which is the only thing. That's going to take a long ass time. The engine is going to be built by the manufacturer. That's going to be a pretty hefty price tag there. So they specifically build aircraft engines. So you're not bolting on an LS engine. You're actually getting an actual aircraft engine.
Yeah.
So you're paying for the engine. You're paying for avionics.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, those are the two big ticket items would be avionics and engine. And there's various other components. Like I'm not going to build any hydraulic pushers or anything like that. I'm really just doing the structure, and then anything else bolt on, I can bolt on and then go with the plans from there.
Yeah, and the cool part is you can buy it in pieces. So like you said, this is just the first part of it. And so yeah, it's nice, it's convenient in that way. Okay, so how are you going to build this? And specifically, are you like a builder, or how does this work? Like, do you just know this stuff? Are you born with this intelligence? How does it work?
Yeah, so I think the biggest resource where I've learned a lot of stuff is on YouTube. Everything's on YouTube. I've learned how to do plumbing in our house on YouTube. I've learned everything is on YouTube. So there's so much great information on YouTube. And my whole goal is to kind of not replicate the other channels who are out there, but kind of help to, I don't know what the term would be. Contribute to the whole community there. Yeah. There's like Jason Ellis, Plane Lady, Flight Chops is building a plane, Build Fly Go, like a bunch of great resources and great people who make great videos. And I just kind of want to follow along with that and continue to pass on information to the next builders. And then anywhere where I don't know information yet would be like the forums. So the biggest forum for specifically Van's aircraft is Van's Air Force, which is just a forum just for plane builders. So you can type in any question you have, and someone has encountered it, or if you never found it there, you can type it yourself. And there's thousands of people out there. It's one of probably the coolest communities is plane builders. It's very, very tight knit, and everyone wants to really help each other.
Yeah.
So
and then there's a manual.
There's a manual, and there's instructions, and I'm not going to read those instructions.
He's kidding.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, but actually, and with regards to the actual building of it, it's incredibly regimented. Like it is literally goes over every single rivet, the way everything needs to go. It's not like you're just getting an IKEA furniture box, skipping the instructions, and then realizing that you put everything backwards after the fact.
You have like 5 extra pieces.
Yeah.
No.
This is very, 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 very controlled. Kind of a tangent on this is a lot of, and I probably won't be like this, but there's a lot of builders out there who pride themselves on building a quality aircraft, and will put their planes up next to a factory-built one, and they'll have far better rivets. They'll have just far more control because it's just them in their garage tinkering for 5 years, laying in one rivet at a time versus an assembly line where you may have just going through and people may not have the same care or attention to detail.
Yep. Okay. So then that leads me to my next question. You mentioned 5 years just then. So when is this going to be done? Like, what's the timeline on this?
I'm aiming for 3 years, I think is the goal. So on average, I think it is about 3 years. I think it's like 33,000 or 3,500 hours total of actual labor to do it. I've seen people finish it. I think I've heard of people finishing in just over a year, but it's very common to see people in the forums go all the way out to 5 years.
Okay.
So I think 3 years would be a solid goal. I think financially 3 years would be best for us, just because as you get further on in the process, the kits get bigger. You gotta buy an engine, gotta buy avionics.
Right.
So I'd rather drag out the financial hurt a little bit later on.
Yeah. So this isn't really fall into a perfect question, but do you know how to fly already?
No.
Not yet. So
Not yet.
Talk about flight school.
No, so I'm hopefully going to be doing flight school very soon here. Hopefully the next couple of weeks I'll start over in Glendale through a local flight school there. I did a flight this last week with them, loved it. We did it in an RV-12, which you did as well.
Mm-hmm.
We made sure, side note, we put her in the air before me and before buying the kit just to make sure that she won't blow chunks.
Yes, so I want to make sure I actually liked it. It's a huge investment in I won't be the one obviously investing as much time, but we will, we'll be sacrificing different things for this, so I wanted to make sure I was fully on board. So I went to the flight school that he'll be going to. I was able to go up with an instructor. They explained to me what Austin would be learning about just the process in general, and so, again. So anyway, so I did that. That's the only, I will not be going to flight school. I will not be flying this plane. It's solely him, but I feel comfortable with it now.
Yeah.
And then, he'll be doing flight
So I'll be going there. I did my discovery flight with them this last week and absolutely loved it. The plane that we flew in, they operate with RV-12s. So this is going to be an RV-10. RV-12, the difference there is it's only a two-seater. Our plane that we're going to build is a four-seater. So the plane I'll be training in, two-seater. It's a little bit smaller, and it's really just meant for training, it seems like. The RV-12 itself is the only plane that Vans actually sells as a complete model. Everything else is kits. But it's super smart, so then it allows people like me to go learn in a Vans airplane. So everything should be similar when I do the transition training to learn how to fly this after. Summed up, starting flight school, and hopefully I'll finish that up in the next year here.
Yeah, okay. The one thing I didn't ask that probably should have fallen into a different question, is this going to be your new 9 to 5, like is building planes your new career, or what does that look like?
I wish. No, so it's not. I'm going to be building this part-time. That's why it's going to take 3 years or so to finish. Still doing full-time real estate in the Phoenix area here. So, I'm staying in the agent business. So
This is
if
more
you know anyone looking to buy or sell homes in the greater Phoenix area, feel free to let me know.
this guy. Okay, well, that's most of our questions. Is there anything we missed? I'm trying to think of things. It's all, I'm gonna put it out there. There's a lot that's unique about this. It's not a common thing that people talk about, that people do. I think the background he gives at his family, it's a very big family background in aviation. I personally don't have any background in aviation. It's something that I have gotten into by virtue of Austin and the fact that he's been talking about it since we met, basically. So.
Yeah, and I'll go way more into detail on another video later on down the line. I love to do an episode on Papa and kind of go over like the family background there with the aerospace industry and whatnot. But one thing I wanted to touch on, because every person that you tell you're building a plane, first thing that comes to mind is safety. And I think we didn't get to that one there. So these are incredibly unsafe and unstable to fly. Just kidding.
Oh my god.
No. So the reason I went with this, so there's a couple of really, really big name kit builders out there.
That's a good question.
So there's a couple of really big ones out there. For a while, I was really hooked on Kitfox.
That was the beginning.
Yeah, especially watching a couple of those channels with the bush pilots, like Trent Palmer.
It's cool. It's a really
a couple
cool
of ones.
thing.
But yeah, there's some awesome planes out there, but I needed to kind of reel things in a little bit. The planes that they fly are bush planes, and the whole goal there is to not only fly and control the plane in the air, but also land on 100-yard, not even 100-yard, like 10-yard gravel strips
You should Google
in the middle of a creek bed.
It's incredible.
So anyways, one of the popular planes for that is the Kitfox, and they sell basically a model just meant for that, or also like a tricycle gear, which is like what this will be. But kind of summed up, long story short, I really like Vans aircraft. I think they're probably the biggest and most well-known names in kit build planes. They seem to have a very, very safe, long track record. And I just love the idea of some plane that I'm not going to ever be tempted to try to do anything crazy just yet. My second plane, I'm already planning the second build. I think the second one will be a bush plane. But I want to learn first. I would like to get proficient. I'd love to get
expert.
I love to become an expert.
Yes.
No, I'd love to become proficient first. And really, the whole reason we went with Vans aircraft, solid name, just super reputable, great, proven.
You see them flying in the air. It's
Yeah,
not
you wouldn't
a one-off.
You wouldn't pick out an RV-10 or an RV-14 from anything else, and you would think it's made by a legit manufacturer when it was built in a two-car garage. So super good name. And then the other thing too is I knew I wanted to go with something very, very reputable, and I also wanted something that we'd be able to fly with gear. So I was very tempted to build or to start building a two-seater and start there and then progress to a four-seater. But I think I don't know how much different the hours are with two-seater versus four, but summed up, I really wanted to be able to have our first plane be like a solid long-lasting plane, keep it for our lifetime, be able to load gear in the back. I've seen people load their bicycles in the back, snowboard, skis,
Camping.
go wherever we really want to go, and have this first one kind of be like our SUV. Is I guess some of that. We like the SUV of the sky.
SUV ever.
Yeah.
I'll do this video.
And then eventually, when we create Offspring, we can put Offspring in the back seats.
Offspring.
No, so this will really be like our.
If family or friends want to come, obviously, I don't expect a ton of people will be jumping at the offer
No.
because it is unique, but who knows?
Yeah, it'll be a great plane to have. And then down the line, eventually, as I progress and become proficient and want to expand, then maybe later on the next plane I build will be a more of a trail dragger or tail dragger, Kit Fox or something
Or
similar.
a jet.
Jet.
Okay.
Scrap this. We're building a jet.
So if people want to follow along on this journey, how do they do that?
Hit subscribe. Hit the like button.
Rate, review, subscribe.
Helps the algorithm, supposedly. No, really, subscribe. Follow me on Instagram. What's my handle on Instagram?
Austin.me.
Austin.Mankey. I post there. I rarely post on Facebook, but I did learn a recent trick. I'm horrible with Facebook. I had to have her help me with it recently.
Correct.
I linked it to my Facebook. So now some of the stuff goes to Facebook. Just go on Instagram, follow me there.
Instagram's
I
gotta
can't
be
stand
serious.
Facebook. It's clunky. It's all busy and stuff. Go to Instagram, follow me there.
So Instagram, YouTube, and you'll pretty much just be documenting throughout.
Yeah, the whole goal.
I can't wait for that to be in it.
The whole goal is really to put out videos, hopefully like once a week. I'm not doing any crazy editing or anything. So maybe like a once a week type video. I'm just kind of showing where we're at. I'll kind of update builder specific things. I'll try to keep it light and not too boring and builder like, but who knows? We'll just keep updating on here, and then I'll throw on Instagram every once in a while. Actually, I think I post too many stories there. But I'll be posting a lot of stuff there. So sorry, friends and family, you'll be seeing a lot of aircraft grade aluminum
Yeah,
coming here shortly.
that and houses.
And houses, yeah.
That's pretty much your life now, but that's okay. All right, well that's everything. I'm sure you guys probably have more questions. Usually people do. The person who dropped this off today had 1 million questions for us. So
Yeah, it was the first time he ever delivered a
part of an
part of an
airplane.
aircraft.
In
He was
8
with them.
years,
Yeah.
the delivery guy. He said in 8 years.
And he's a big aerospace guy too.
So that was. So if you have more questions, you can ask Austin. Ask me. I know a good amount. Honestly, I've been following Austin, following this for a few years, but direct them probably this guy on
Yeah.
Instagram, YouTube, whatever.
All right, sounds good.